Many of the people that I've been dealing with over the last 10 years, if I tried to promote an environmental idea, it didn't fly. I will tell you the reason that I was successful with our team of people to stop the Clinch River breeder reactor was not on proliferation, it was not on environmental impact, it was on the economics, that this was a piece of pork that cost $8 billion and started off going to cost $400 million. So I perceived the process of what makes people tick and concluded that it was money, it was economics that was talking. So I thought, if I'm going to reach those people that are in those positions that I really want to change, those corporate CEOs, those senators, those congressmen, I am going to speak their language of economics to them. So what we've put together is the product value of biodiversity, not only pharmaceuticals, but also ecosystem value, which most people don't know what is ecosystem value. So I want to try to take this economic and scientific language and put it in very common terms that somebody reading Reader's Digest would be able to understand easily. And one ad that I came up with recently, and so what we're doing is we've done the research. It's focused only on the United States because everyone is sensitive to the loss of biodiversity around the world, but at the same time we're looking over there and we're trying to tell people not to burn their rainforest, and here we're filling in our wetlands, we're cutting down our ancient forest, we're totally ignoring all of the loss of biodiversity that we have control over in this country. So we're taking kernels of this information from the research, and I am trying to figure out how to match it with different corporations. And then I am going to these corporate CEOs and saying, here's a message. And what I am answering subliminally as that corporate leader is sitting there is, he's saying, what's in it for me? When we can answer the question, what's in it for me, we've taken a major step forward.
We're always looking for ways to introduce new feedbacks or change existing ones so as to reward rather than penalize efficient behavior. I think that's a good generic principle because these are dynamic organizations that have their own reasons for doing things, and if you can just reward them for doing the right thing, you can use their metabolism to do what's necessary.
Amory, say a little bit more about that.
Well, the utility regulatory reform is the most obvious. I mean, here you have, let's see, John Fox, you're in the audience. Where's John?
I think he left.
Who's on both our boards, who runs the world's largest demand-side management program, and last year spent, I think, $170-some million helping customers buy less electricity and more efficiency. And that generated something like $300 or $400 billion, million dollars in customer benefit, and then the company got to keep about 15% of that, so it added 40-odd million to their bottom line. You can be quite sure if you run a program like that, the utility CEO is likely to call you every week and say, is there anything you need? And all the smartest people in the company will want to work in your division. Now, I think it's also important to look for demand pull in complex market relationships rather than to push people into doing things. So if you want to get more efficient buildings built, it's not enough just to educate developers or just to, say, improve engineering education. I think you need to change incentives so that key parties who have a lot of influence start demanding efficient buildings. For example, maybe the financiers will demand it to get their financial performance. Maybe we should be marketing energy efficiency to the insurance companies that own a lot of non-performing real estate and want to make it, want to get tenants in and get more net operating income. We can market to the tenants that they'll have less occupancy costs and better productivity and better comfort and better light and so on. Their demands for better buildings will then converge on the asset managers and building owners who will then need to find design professionals who can tell them how to do it. So we need to educate them too, but I think those are the main kinds of actors. And very often in RMI, we've been able to use existing competitive forces to do our outreach for us. For example, in soft commercial leasing markets, which is most of them, people fight over rent differences of 5 or 10 cents a square foot year. But a lighting retrofit saves you about $1 per square foot year. Whoever does that first has money they can use to do initial rent concessions or tenant finish or whatever it takes to grab tenants. And whoever does it first, therefore, will gain market shares. Meanwhile, you have a lot of architects and engineers twiddling their thumbs because nobody's building stuff. So retrofit for them is the only game in town. They have a strong market incentive to get good at it and to hire themselves out to the developers who are fixing up those non-performing properties. So we always look for those kinds of opportunities where there's a silver lining, namely people have an economic incentive to do what we're talking about. And the third business idea I'd suggest is looking for unexpected allies. Last year, we were approached by the Copper Development Corporation, which is the vertically integrated organization of everybody from the copper mining companies through all the copper and brass fabricators, all the way to the recyclers. This is kind of ironic because it's a fight with the world's largest mining company over a copper mine that got me into this business in the first place. Well, we had stupidly failed to notice that just about all the things you do to save electricity use more copper. Fatter wire, bigger pipe, more and better copper in the motors, bigger heat exchangers, and so on. So people who are marketing copper have a very strong incentive to push electric efficiency. For their own marketing reasons, they are now turning into very powerful, imaginative allies in promoting electric efficiency. And then they will also help pick up the lousy motors and get the copper recycled again, so they'll work with our utility partners. Now, that makes me wonder how many of those opportunities have we missed by not having systematically thought through whose interest is it in to do what we're talking about, and how can we create a partnership with them that neither of us thought of.